Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Let me tell you something. Big discussion took place today, and you gotta excuse my voice. It's just raspy. I don't know, man. I may be losing my voice, like on the road to permanently losing my voice. I need to go and probably get checked out about it, man, because I said it's not normal to lose your voice like that. But anyway, this whole discussion about Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, how Anthony Joshua was able to come back from 3 losses and basically be at the top of the heavyweight mountain again. And then you look at Wilder and how he just hasn't really been able to get his feet underneath him since the Tyson Fury bouts. Now remember, even I said when Deontay Wilder fought Helenius, I said that fight doesn't count. Because I saw in that fight, when Wilder threw that jab to the body, that Helenius caught him with a right hook, and he hurt him. But most people didn't see that shot. They just saw Wilder on the back foot, and then his back hit the ropes, and he threw the right hand and caught Jay. But I am telling you, the longer that fight would have gone on, I think Wilder would have lost that fight. But nonetheless, how did AJ manage to end up in the position he's in? And Wilder, well, the way one of the subscribers put it, Deontay Wilder chose to get a GED. Anthony Joshua said he wanted to graduate with a high school diploma. So basically, Wilder chose a program that was an alternative to actually going and putting in the work to where he could actually acquire hands-on from being in the classroom setting, the academic knowledge needed. And so it's tacit experience and explicit experience. And he made sure to find the right teachers that could bring him up to speed so that he would graduate with a diploma. Instead, Deontay Wilder chose to come out here this alternative route and just grab kind of a certification, which isn't the same. You don't have to put as much work in. See, anybody can go out here and, pass a test, which is basically going to be equivalent to someone who actually puts their self through the ringer, which Anthony Joshua set his pride aside, but he did have help. Right promoter, right support system, and he humbled himself. This man went to Robert Garcia, Derek James, traveled across the world to figure out what's wrong with me, what do I need to do. They gave him the right opponents. But the way they were able to do that is Joshua humbled himself and recognized that he needed help. And if it's not the trainer, then it's him. If it's not him, it's the trainer. So I'm going to break this all the way down and start to rebuild. And along the way, he found something. Something in himself and something in that trainer, Ben Davison. Now Joshua's off to the races. Does that mean he beats Usyk? Does that mean he beats Fury? I mean, I think so. But at the same time, we've talked about it, and we understand Anthony Joshua in the last 4 opponents he faced. I mean, they weren't Daniel Dubois. This Daniel Dubois. But Deontay Wilder, man, I'm going to tell you, Freaky Maliki must have cast a spell on that guy. Any other boxer would have fired Malik Scott's ass already. If you really want to win a fight, if you really want to be the greatest, if you really want to become undisputed, you really want to go ahead and fight for them $50 million paydays, $70 million paydays that Turkey Al-Sheikh is affording these guys. My man, you cannot get there unless you give yourself the best opportunity with the right trainer. Humble yourself. Recognize that you need help. Your corner needs help. Now, I'm not saying bring Mark Breland back. I think the ship sailed on that. But God, they have qualified trainers out here. And I want to make this crystal clear. Just because Malik Scott didn't go on to become a big-time heavyweight champion, right? I am not saying that doesn't mean that a person who just has an okay boxing career can't become a good trainer. I'm not saying that. But if you look at the guys who've gone on to become great trainers, they put the work in. They didn't just, after their boxing career, whether they were successful in it or not, find somebody who's operating on an elite level and say, hey, look at me now, and here we go, and yeah, this is my champion, this is my guy. Nah, they cut their teeth. They put the work in. They learned. They understood. Just like with boxing, you had to know your craft. As trainers, they wanted to know their craft. You look at Freddie Roach. Some people laugh at him about his professional career. He was one of them solid journeymen, good gatekeeper, tough guy to beat. But if you could beat him, there was something special about you. Look at what he's done as a trainer. But he worked underneath Eddie Futch. You look at Robert Garcia. Amazing trainer. That man was a champion in everything. But he learned from his dad. And he was an amazing champion. He knows boxing. And he loves it. Look at how many different people he trained. This man is all over at fights with his fighters. He's the real deal. Deontay Wilder, man. It's a sad, sad case, but that's kind of how it goes, man. When you settle for the GED, instead of actually going in and putting in the work. Some of those exhausting nights where you got to study and go into school and take your tests and get ready for the next year and whatever you have going on in the evening, and then the next year, the next year, the next year. Wilder didn't do that. He didn't put the work in like AJ. That's why AJ can walk around here and strut his stuff like a peacock. Wilder is out here looking crazy. I'll tell you what. There was a big discussion also about whether Deontay Wilder should continue, and one person pointed out something. They said, you know what? Wilder should continue. Even Big Bang Jane, even though he says, it's me, Bigger Bang. Even Bigger Bang said Deontay Wilder should continue. Deontay Wilder should continue. Even Big Bang Jane, even though he says, it's me, Bigger Bang. Even Bigger Bang said Deontay Wilder should continue. Deontay Wilder should continue. Even Bigger Bang said Deontay Wilder should continue. Even Bigger Bang said Deontay Wilder should continue. I don't disagree with saying he should continue. I disagree with them not adding on to he should continue with a different trainer. But I'm going to tell you, it's got to be hard when you went the GED route and you're still able to come in here and make the money, the same money or more than the guys who went and got an actual diploma. This is what happens. At some point in time, it will show that you aren't as qualified as the other person who really put in the work. Not just cram, study something to just go and pass a damn test, to check a block. Because that's all Deontay Wilder has done, is check a block. He ain't put the work in since prelim, and it shows. Everyone is passing him up. Who would have ever thought that we'd be sitting here just looking at the idea of Deontay Wilder fighting Jared Big Baby Anderson and losing to him, or Gerald Big Baby Miller and losing to him, Daniel Dubois and losing to him, Devin Haney and losing to him. It's just a bad time right now for that man. This whole thing about Zhang didn't really connect with the right hook. Let me tell y'all something. I'm all about a good conspiracy theory. I'm all about jokes. I like to have fun with the content. You already know that. But Deontay Wilder got clobbered with that right hook. So when these people out here saying that he got robbed, he never got hit, or he threw the fight, man, I shouldn't even be mentioning that shit in my video, to be honest with you. But nonetheless, the only way this man will have a chance, because Turki Al-Sheikh going to give him another opportunity. It's almost like Turki Al-Sheikh is like, I want to see him knock somebody out. I mean, he's seeing the knockouts. It's just not Deontay Wilder doing the knocking out. But he may get another opportunity. Who he fights, I don't know. But if he wants to be successful, he's got to humble himself. He's got to shut up and want to learn. I'm telling you, I've seen people like this. Hundreds of them. I'll give you a story before I end this video. When I was stationed in Okinawa, Japan, right? There was a young man in the office. And he, as far as his job, right, he knew what he knew. But for some reason, when I would try to talk to him, now remember, I was over the section. There were like, I don't know, like 30-something people in there or something. But I'm over the whole section. And every time I try to tell this fool something about his work and shit, he always trying to tell me I was wrong. So what happened is, I would let him talk, and I would just shut up, because I knew I was right. So what I would do is go back to my desk, and whatever we were talking about, where he was half correct and I was 100% correct, I would shoot him an excerpt from an Air Force instruction that explained how what we were discussing needed to be done, right out the book. So it wasn't my word. It's like, look, stupid. The instruction says do it this way. You're not doing all the steps. So he used to get frustrated. But no matter what, he wouldn't listen. He wanted to do things his way. So one day, shit hit the fan. It was like going to end up having a grounded aircraft because he didn't want to forecast these time change items, which are components that need to be replaced at a certain interval, right? The way the book said, which is how I was training him, because where he came from at his other assignment, they had them doing it wrong. So now we're in the office, and everyone in my office, right, when they come in there, I don't care where you came from, whether you were already signed off on knowing how to do your job, I made sure to explain everything by the book. So I made them go through a rigorous kind of on-the-job retraining for 60 or 90 days. If you prove to me that you can do it, then cool. But if not, I'm going to treat you like you just joined the military and came into the workplace. So this one day in particular, the bozo made the mistake, and we were looking at forecasting stuff. There was maybe about 12 people around the computer, and they called me over because some of the people I trained were getting into it with him. And he was trying to tell them they're wrong, and whoever trained you wrong, y'all are stupid. And he was being real disrespectful. They were like, oh yeah, Sergeant Hood Champion trained us. And he was like, oh yeah. And they're like, no. And then they called me. He was trying to tell them, no, don't call him over here. But they called me over. So I went over, and instead of him, even though I had already kind of made him look stupid about 13 different times, instead of him humbling himself and saying, okay, just go ahead and show me what I'm doing wrong because I know you're going to prove me wrong, he was like, well, look, you don't know what you're doing. It's what he said to me. So I said, all right, look here, Einstein. I was like, how far out are you supposed to forecast these? He gave me an answer, and he was right. I said, okay, when do you forecast them? He didn't know. I was like, okay, are you supposed to forecast these annually? I was like, what happens if the parts aren't showing available? He didn't know. So you go out to the engineers and touch base to see if there's a suitable supplement. So now I started drilling down per the instructions, something he couldn't do because I studied, I did the homework, I knew how to do it. I had the basic fundamentals, like kind of like Deontay Wilder, what he does not have, he did not have, and that's what that guy was like, Deontay Wilder. And it took me embarrassing this guy in front of the whole office. They were laughing at him. And every time he tried to argue me, I would just sit there and say, pull up AFI so-and-so technical order. So AFI means Air Force Instruction. Or TO so-and-so means technical order. And I was like, go right here to this page. I knew the exact page where some of that stuff was at because I used to read it so much. And I was like, go to section 1 point so-and-so. I was like, what does it say? Now, when I'm talking loud. I'm making him feel stupid. And he got to the point where he was so embarrassed. And I said, this is the last time I'm going to tell you something. Where I say to do it this way, and when I'm showing you by the book, and you still argue, I was like, you look stupid. I said, but this is the last time I'm going to tell your ass. And I told him, next time I'm going to write your ass up. Because we can't afford to have an aircraft grounded because we didn't do something the correct way. And I said, unfortunately for you, you weren't taught the basic fundamentals. And I was a project manager at a job called plans and scheduling, right? The basic fundamentals of plans and scheduling. And that individual, you know what he did? He started crying. This motherfucker started crying. crying. Now, I'm looking at everybody. People had to walk in the office because they laughing and shit. And I'm like, look at this full crying. Big ass mouth, disrespectful, don't want to listen. Humble his ass. But it took that for that idiot to come back to office the next day. And what do you think he said to me? He's like, I'm sorry, can you help me? And I said, yeah, because he had the desire to learn. He wanted to learn, but he came from a workplace where they had him feeling like he was great because he was a go-getter. So they just told him, do this, do that, but they didn't train him right. So they sat back and screwed off and made him feel like he was the man. So he did the work and they screwed off, and which was horrible. They did him wrong. But he came by me. We broke him down and we built him back up the right way. And he was one of the best workers in the office. And when he was his next base, I actually got compliments from his gaining supervisor. They're like, yo, this guy here, WTF. And I'm like, yeah. He went in and knew more than the goddamn superintendent of the office. Because he knew everything by the book. Everything. And no matter what they wanted to say, he was like, well, look right here. You arguing with the book? Don't argue with me. You look, the book right here. So I taught him my way. And when I look at Deontay Wilder, he reminds me of that guy who just was a stubborn dumbass. And it took him getting, I'm talking about, embarrassed to where he cried. And he finally said, all right, I need help. And when I look at what happened to Wilder this past weekend, he's at that point to where he's like, fuck, I'm embarrassed now. I need help. And I would not be surprised, people, if he chooses to continue. I would not be surprised if he gets help now. I wouldn't be surprised if Malik Scott steps down and says, look, I'm failing you as a trainer. Bring someone else on. Both of them are looking stupid. And I think it's at that point to where either Wilder's going to bring someone on and keep Malik, or Malik's going to step down and say, nah, man, I don't think I'm doing a good job. But either way it goes, if Wilder goes forward, I think both of them are embarrassed, and I think they're going to humble themselves and get the help needed. If not, Wilder is doomed. He's going to get killed in that goddamn ring. So you can't come in there doing that shit that he did against Zhang. Can't do that shit he did against Parker. Not even against Hellenius. He's got to figure it out. He ain't getting no younger, man. 38 now. Too small. Everything about Wilder needs to be fixed. And I'm not saying come out here and try to teach this type of look like Muhammad Ali. But if they could just get him back to how he was when Malik Scott took over, then Wilder would be okay. But he's not even a tenth of what he was. And that's unfortunate. So that's what happens when you go the GED route, like Wilder did. And then you look at AJ going to high school diploma route, and look where he ended up. That's kind of what happens. Y'all keep cool. I'm in the breeze.